what's up? Welcome to the Verbal Journal podcast, and welcome to the public. This is a public episode. Every third episode is public. Great to be back. I know I kind of left you with like a cliffhanger, you public people, because on the last public episode we had pretty extensive tech issues, if I do say so myself. And there was even some questions about whether we're going to be doing video or just audio only. But we are back with video. We never stopped. With the private episodes, I was explaining to the members and patrons, I resolved the tech issues because I'm a troubleshooter. I like to troubleshoot. So I troubleshoot and I figured stuff out. So I'm back on camera, I am on camera still. Okay, address that. All right, so let me tell you what we got on this podcast. A lot of people don't understand. So we're going to do first section will be the horizontal integration segment where I talk about the main channel, some pretty exciting news with a new video out, obviously, on the main channel. Then we'll talk We'll talk then about the Louis Theroux documentary Inside the Manosphere that just came out. I actually caught that one. We'll have the Goodish news segment where we fly through the Goodish news of the day. A couple research articles I want to show you. A quick meditation or long meditation, depending on how we feel. Then we'll have some images in the image segment. Audiovisual segment should be pretty jam-packed. And then we have a very special segment, which will be the audio-only segment, sort of a testament or sort of like an homage to the fact that we were almost audio-only as a podcast. We got a segment that's audio-only, not audio-visual, audio-only. Then we'll do some follow-ups, mailbag. You can write into the mailbag at verbaljournalpodcast@gmail.com. We'll have potentially an improv segment. I don't know. And I like to play that one by ear. I like to improv, whether I do an improv segment, actually. Then obviously I'll thank the members and the patrons who keep this whole thing running. And then we'll get out of here. So that's pretty much it. And let's get right on into it. So new video came out. You might have seen it. If you are interested in my videos. So I'm the guy from What's Therapy. I do videos. I talk about different things. So this was a fun video. I banged it out quick, under 2 weeks from beginning to end. Yeah, I want to say I started writing it 2 weeks ago today. And I put it out on Friday. So that's great. Quick turnaround time. Writing it took a couple days over the span of maybe a week. And I just tried to kind of bang it out. There's always more details you can go into. I could have gone into way more detail on denial patterns. I could have found way more examples, but it was good to just kind of try to get it done. That's big, to just say, okay, let's just try to get this done. The war is obviously a very current thing going on. Actually, let me check the news today while we're talking, it's still going on. Yep, it's kind of a big deal. So I was like, I want to get this out sooner. What's there to say? I'm happy with how it came out. It was fun to kind of put together and, be able to express myself. The background, there was some late in the game issues with exporting, as there always is, and I was worried the background wouldn't come out in 4K. But it did. So I was able to get everything into 4K. I just kept trying to export it, and eventually it just worked. I got lucky. So, lots of interesting comments. Thank you all for leaving such interesting comments. I don't know that I would need to go through them. I'll just kind of generally respond to them. A lot of people were, appreciative, I guess, or enjoyed the fact that I talked about the war on Iran in this way and at all. There were a couple people that were like, I don't like that you're talking about politics. And then there were a few people that maybe disagreed and they think, well, the thing is people often disagree, but it's like they don't say I disagree with that point you make. They just make other points and then act like they disagree, but they sort of leave it to you to understand, like, how do they disagree? They're just saying a different point. That doesn't mean that they disagree with what I said. So there's, a lot of different reactions, but Yeah, I'm very happy about it. I mean, 10K views in 2 days is great. I'm happy that it's out there. Um, I don't know. It's just it's just one thing I can do. It's not, it's not going to make a huge impact, but it's one thing I can do to just try to express what I feel is speaking truth to power. And it's something that I think more people should kind of have the balls to do, for lack of a better word. Um, I'm surprised at some people who just seem to think that it's okay to not comment on things going on in their world. It feels kind of childish to me. I understand if not everyone's in a place to be able to comment on things, but some people I think can and don't. And so I think it's really a dereliction of responsibility. I think we all have the responsibility to express ourselves and to engage in the world in a meaningful way. This world is it changes depending on how people engage in it and how we engage. So it feels like a responsibility to express our views about things that are going on. I feel a genuine sense of responsibility about that. I also enjoy it because it's a way to make sense of things for myself while I'm doing it. It sort of sharpens my views as I write something or try to make sense of the world. I yeah, I don't know. I think people really try to oversimplify a lot of these problems that are going on in the world, or look at it as like good or bad people, or look at it as like everyone's equally bad or something like that. But there's just a lot of nuance to it, and yeah, you don't have to think a country is good to think it's bad that another country is invading them and bombing them. One of the audiovisual things we'll look at, I don't usually do this, but we'll actually look at a video of bombing taking place in Israel, actually. Bombing from Iran, because I just thought this just happened yesterday. Israel gets hit with bombs too, but they try to downplay it and pretend that they're impenetrable. And it's propaganda for their people to try to feel that they're impacted less by a war that their country is carrying on. And Israel has been murdering so many people. Inside and outside of Israel, obviously Gaza, the West Bank. This past weekend, they've been continuing the horrible settler violence that's illegal, and the settlements are illegal in most of those places. And then they're bombing Lebanon and Tehran and Iran. And they're bombing and they're murdering 1,000 people in Lebanon, displacing 1 million people in Lebanon, and they're murdering people in Tehran. So I just stumbled across a video of Israel getting hit by missiles, and it was remarkable you'll see in the audiovisual segment. It's just just the experience of like imagining that I'm someone getting hit with a missile and what that would be like. And then two, just kind of understanding it as people who have been propagandized to believe that their country is not doing anything wrong, and that then they're not going to suffer any consequences of their country's actions, but they will. I mean, obviously, consequences are just like an inherent part of the world. So, so all in all, really, really happy to put this video out and give my perspective. And I think, I've said this before, but like I like to escape reality. I like to, spend a lot of time doing paintings. I like to spend a lot of time just like, zoning in on some fun activity or something. But I do also think that it's a big responsibility to try to process the world, as I was just saying, and to like tune into the world, to let it in, to make sense of it, to understand it, to process it, to make meaning out of it, and to understand the truth. And I think if you're struggling for a purpose in life, consider that one. The purpose of understanding the truth and processing the world. Like you're a system, and your purpose is to filter through the external world and to figure out, to solve patterns and to make sense of it and to see truth and to perceive reality. which is complicated in a way, but not too complicated. So I'm speaking in general terms. I don't know exactly what else to say about this process. It was it was fun. Oh, this was a fun little thing I did. I like coming up with stuff like this. It was just a fun way to, I mostly do it because I don't have anything else to show for that for that piece. But then it's just kind of like fun to find something interesting to show. Yeah, I mean, a few comments maybe disagreed with my points about self-preservation, but I don't know what to tell you. If someone wants to kill you, you're not allowed to go kill them. Okay, they're not allowed to kill Tuco because he wants to kill them. You're not allowed to kill anyone. Okay, so here's what I know. This sounds lame, but I'm just gonna be honest. I don't know what else to say. Like, if someone wants to kill you, if you are in a dire situation, okay, imminent. What justifies self-defense is imminence. I'm not a legal person, but like this is my understanding. So like if someone imminent means like literally it's happening. It's happening. Not the murderers driving over to your house. You know what I mean? That's like if the murderer is driving over to your house and you say, "Cool, I'm going to hide in my closet and shoot them when they walk in." Well, at that point they're walking into your house. Okay, wait, here's the analogy. If the murderer is coming over to your house and you say, "Okay, I'm going to wait by my window and snipe them when they pull up in their car." I don't know. You might need a good lawyer. I think that might not be self-defense if they're still in their car. You know what I mean? I don't know. That's maybe more of an edge case. But certainly going and like hunting down the murderer and killing them first or something, or paying someone, you know someone's going to murder you tomorrow. So you pay someone to kill them today. You just committed murder. That's not self-defense. You know what I mean? And so what should you do? I hate to say it. I'm sorry, fuck the police, but like that's your option. You have to go to the police. I don't know what to, or you either run away and you risk it, which is totally fine. You do you, or you go to the police and you say, "I need protection" or whatever. And they say, "Sorry, we don't help people." And then you leave. You know what I mean? I don't know how much the police can actually be helpful, but that doesn't make it okay to murder someone. So regardless, like you don't have that right. I don't believe in vigilante justice. So that's not self-defense, just like it's not self-defense for the U.S. to say Iran wants to wipe the U.S. off the face of the earth. It's always this like ridiculous metaphorical language. Like, based on the UN's charter, based on I believe like the War Powers Act as well, like maybe like it's a little different certainly from international law to domestic law, but like there has to be like an armed attack taking place. You can't just be like, "Oh, they wanted to kill us." That's not how it works. So I guess what's interesting to me about this is like the reasoning process. That's what's interesting to me, because that's what I feel like is this really complex human thing, and how we make sense of the world is through our reasoning process, to a significant extent. So I just find it really interesting to try to understand like what reasoning process is true and makes sense, and what is motivated. And what is self-defense is a very important question. And it's not enough to just claim self-defense. We all know that. It's obviously not enough to just claim self-defense. That doesn't make it self-defense. So yeah, that's why we have courts. I personally think laws are good. I've taken that very controversial opinion before. I think it's good to have laws. I think some laws are bad and need to be changed, but I think in general laws are good, because that's sort of like principles. It's sort of like having a system of principles or things that you take as touching points for your reasoning process to determine right and wrong, to determine innocent or guilty, to determine truth or falsity. Like you have to have some principles that you touch on, and we have laws in our world. We have rules that we try to guide our actions based on. So without those, you have nothing. It's might equals right. There's no, without laws, you just have might. You just have force. And I don't believe anyone wants to live in that world. I really don't. I think people think they want to live in that world as long as they're on the side that's not being forced. But trust me, someone starts treating Israel like Israel's treated the Palestinians, and Israel would be going to the international court pretty quick and saying, we need help. Same for the U.S. We might actually become party to the International Criminal Justice Court or whatever. We're part of the ICC, but we're not part of the ICJ. What is it? Is U.S. part of the ICC? No, we're not part of the ICC or the ICJ. ICJ is part of the ICC. Is that right? No, we're part of the ICJ. Hold on. Is the ICJ part of the ICC? No. Okay. Two different independent institutions located in The Hague, Netherlands, with different functions. The ICJ, UN World Court, settles disputes between nations, while the ICC prosecutes individuals for atrocities. Okay. Okay. Well, there's a lot of moving parts, I suppose. So the U.S. selects ICJ's jurisdiction selectively. The U.S. accepts it selectively. And the U.S. is not party to the Rome Statute and has not joined the ICC, according to my initial review here. While the U.S. participated in creating the ICC, it later voted against it and has not ratified the treaty because we wanted to murder Iraqis, is my understanding. I don't know. I mean, how do you live without accountability? How is there no accountability for all the war crimes? It's for the war crimes are just the type of crime, So I believe crime, has to be kind of addressed. People have to be held accountable when they commit crimes. We want to deport criminal undocumented people, but we don't want to prosecute other criminals. Sort of seems like it's not about the criminality then, I guess. Would not be the factor that right-wing Republicans and centrists and apologists and cowards seem to care about. They don't seem to care about criminality because, they don't care. They don't want law and order because that takes away their ability to be the might. Anyway, so new video. Yeah, hope you enjoyed. All right, next up we have part 2 of the horizontal integration segment, which is always a treat. This is an article by Forbes about Pluribus, and Vince Gilligan gives an update on Pluribus. So let's check it out. I just wanted to show this really quick. So it's just a lot of interesting things. So Pluribus, so everyone keeps apparently banging down Vince's door asking about Pluribus season 2. So he said we're doing our best. It takes forever making this thing. I wish it was faster. We appreciate everyone's patience very much. More and more as the months drag on. But thank you anyone who likes the show. We are doing, honest to God, doing our best. Can you guys give Vince a break? Everyone just calm down. Everyone just calm the hell down. Jesus Christ, find something else to do. It's crazy to me. I just wanted to point this out and talk about this briefly. Be like genuinely, everyone just chill out. Vince, you're good. No one's gonna, we're fine. We can wait. People should not expect reveal after reveal. Good. Yeah, I don't care. You do your thing. This is how writing works. You do your thing. People just need to calm down, find something else to watch. It's like when I'm painting. Sometimes the painting has to dry and you just have to wait a couple weeks, Sometimes they have to take a year or two. Take your time. Who cares? Pluribus didn't used to exist, and now it does. I think we can wait for the next season. So I just wanted to say, Vince, you're good, man. Take your time. I'll keep telling people to be patient. You just take your time. Okay, that's all for that. So great, very nice, good horizontal integration segment. Next up, we got I watched this Manosphere documentary. This is called Inside the Manosphere. So you may have heard about this because everyone's talking about it on YouTube. And I actually saw a few people who were criticizing it, which I have some criticisms myself actually. It was like strangely disappointing, while being good. It was like quite good and entertaining, and yet at the end I was like, "That's it? What?" Now it's Louis Theroux, who is extremely well respected for good reason. He's a very talented documentarian. I actually haven't seen his. I don't believe I've seen his documentaries. But I've seen like clips, or I've seen things that I was like, oh yeah, I saw like, some clips when he interviewed Israeli settlers. And he's just as great at asking people hard questions and like waiting and letting them. He just has a good sense for not only what's true, but how to kind of hear people out and let people speak the truth, sometimes in ways that are shocking to themselves even. So yeah, he just has a very kind of neutral presence, even though he's confrontational and challenging in his own way. And so he's extremely skilled. I have a lot of respect for the way he carries on these interactions, and I think he's very, very good at drawing people out. First, some like, I guess, positive points or interesting points. So first, he interviews, this guy, a few other people who are like Manosphere influencers who like tell boys, hey, I can help you escape the matrix of like low paying jobs and unsatisfying life. And I can help you like rise to the level of being buff and having a lot of sexual partners and wearing nice things and, running a drop shipping scam, or I don't know. They all have different sort of things that they sort of do as their like get rich quick scheme. Often there's like a lot of, unregulated financial instruments, and stuff like that, rug pulls, different things. And so it's definitely playing off of like the way that boys and men are told that we have to be the provider, but then we're in a world where it's increasingly extremely difficult to do that for a lot of men. Obviously, not all men, hashtag not all men. But yeah, no one, you can't really deny the facts that like cost of living has gone up and up, and it's harder and harder for people to support themselves, let alone a family. And but yet the messaging is quite the same, that men and boys are sort of inculcated with this idea that you have to be the provider and anything else is a threat to your identity. Not all these Manosphere people say that in the same way, but there's a lot of other sort of mixture of stuff going on, but yeah, they sort of have this message. So Louis Theroux puts a lot of cracks in that message and helps us kind of see how vapid, vacant, empty, pathetic, lame it is. But like the kind of first key point, and maybe it's a really positive thing, but maybe it's the flip side of some of the flaws of the film. But like, Louis Theroux, from the beginning to the end, they're highlighting how he scares these Manosphere guys, how he's scary to them, and they don't really know who he is, but then they're like told by their fans and their viewers, oh, this guy is gonna roast you, or this guy really exposes people, and so they're scared of him. They're scared of this like older, calm, white guy. I don't know like what it is about him, but they're scared of how he just is like. The sort of like to them he's like a judgment of, I don't know, like maybe like popular culture or a more mainstream world, but like not the type of mainstream world they're necessarily used to railing against. So he's a little bit of like a mystery, like what's he gonna do? Is he gonna hold my feet to the fire? And how am I gonna respond? And they're scared of him. And there's a lot of moments in the film where you can see him making them uncomfortable and sort of like mogging them, for lack of a better word, like masculinity wise, in the sense that like you just kind of see him like doming them. It's like, I didn't know how else to put it. Like it, sometimes I guess it's subtle, but it's really not subtle because the film opens with how scared they are of him. And then throughout the film, you're seeing Louis Theroux just be sort of what I would consider like masculine, like I don't really think about things in these terms very often, but like I talk about in my Breaking Bad video, like you want to have conceptions of masculinity, great. We have conceptions of everything, understand masculinity as something, positive. For example, like maybe you don't have to be the provider for your family. Maybe it's okay to split bills, with your partner. Maybe it's okay to, accept help in various ways if you need it. Maybe it's okay, maybe it's okay to struggle sometimes while you're trying to be a provider, and it doesn't make you any less of a man or less of a person. And yet still, maybe part of what it means to be a man is to be responsible. And to, and that's not a man versus a woman. That's more of a man versus a boy. I think the healthy masculinity is what separates men from boys rather than men from women. I don't think you can rationally be like, men are like this, women are like that. I think that gets you into like territory where you sound a little stupid, So I just, so I don't mean like, oh, men are supposed to be responsible and women aren't. Like, that's not, it doesn't make sense. That just doesn't make sense, But, and okay, you want to talk about like emotion regulation. Okay, maybe masculinity, it's not about men denying their emotions. It's not about men not crying. It's not about men, refusing to seem weak. But maybe it is actually important to be confident. Maybe confidence is really good. I feel very confident as a person. My confidence comes from really assessing my internal motivations and my life and everything about myself, and coming to the conclusion that I like what I'm doing and I like how I am. And so I'm confident. I'm very confident. And confidence comes from doing good things and then being a rational person, as much as possible. And understanding, oh, I'm doing good things. I have nothing to be, I have nothing to be unconfident about, but generally I feel very confident. That's sort of what I get from Louis Theroux, is like he's completely confident. He's like, very calm and confident and self-assured. And he comes off very masculine in those ways, in a positive sense of masculinity. In the sense of, hey, okay, maybe men, maybe you don't have to like be a protector in the sense of you take it on as your entire identity that like you have more agency than other people and you help protect them. But maybe it's okay to, care about the feelings of the people around you. Maybe that's part of being a protector, is like, being aware of other people, being attentive to other people. He interviews like Myron Gaines, the fresh and fit guy. And Myron's ex, so his partner at the time, who they've since broken up, is there, and she's clearly uncomfortable with the interaction. But after the interaction, Myron's like, "Oh no, she was fine." It's like, okay, well, you're not much of a protector if you can't even perceive when someone's uncomfortable or like not happy about something. I mean, that's just being attuned to someone. So like, you just get this kind of sense that Louis Theroux is like, he's doming them. I don't know. There's probably a better word to use, but like he's essentially doming these men one after the other. And it's really interesting to see that, to see him just like, to see what it's like when these like sort of grown up man boys interact with like an actual man who's just like, very comfortable in himself and can't be, necessarily thrown off by, he can be surprised, and they this guy in particular like brings up things that I'll mention in a sec that sort of surprise Louis or whatever. But I just kept seeing time after time like, oh yeah, this is what it's like for these guys to interact with like a real like masculine man who's actually comfortable in himself. So, now criticism though, and I think it's the flip side of that in a sense, because that point that I was just making is sort of very like interpersonal and very micro level. Like you're seeing Louis Theroux on these interactions and how he presents as more confident than these men. And now these men are the ones being interviewed, so you could say that's obviously a huge factor. But regardless, I don't know. If you're being interviewed and you're confident in your life, like, okay, there's a little nerves. You're being interviewed by Netflix, but like, that's life. I don't know what to tell you. So, but I think the flip side of that micro level sort of like success, and the main reason I finished the film and I was like, wait, is that it? Is there's not sufficient macro level analysis at all. It's like, it reminded me of like, if you're talking about anti-vax people, you have to give the analysis of like, I get that pharma, like big pharma is a huge issue. Like if you're talking about anti-vax people, you have to validate that point that big pharma is a huge issue, or else you seem like you're not really engaging, or you're like not doing justice to the reasons why people, one of the big reasons why people might be motivated to worry about vaccines. Now it's very ironic because a lot of anti-vax people are not critical of the influence of private industry on our government generally. They're just very selectively take issue with when private industry influences government policy, or when lobbying exists. It seems very selective. Regardless, so Louis Theroux doesn't enough get into the basis for why people are motivated to seek out these Manosphere guys. He does interview some of the fans. So he does, but again, it's like micro level. I know it's a documentary and maybe you don't want to go into these presentations of facts about the world, but like, isn't that the point of a documentary, to give us a little bit of like the context also? So he interviews even like people who were formerly homeless, like people who are struggling and following these Manosphere guys. So he really does paint the picture of like, people follow these Manosphere guys because they're at a low place, because they're looking for meaning. You know, maybe they don't have a father figure. Maybe the Manosphere guys don't have a father figure like that. But again, that's sort of still micro level, you know? So the question is like, on the macro level, like, okay, I'll just say the point I really wanted them to make. Because like, this point that there's a matrix, that you're caught in the matrix and you can't get out of the matrix, and the matrix keeps you doing low-paid wage labor and you can't actually pull yourself out of it. That's what these Manosphere guys are selling people. And I didn't like that Louis Theroux never made the point in the narration, as far as I remember, like never made the point of like, yeah, people are trapped in wage labor. Like that's really a key point. Like, yes, people are legitimately trapped in low-paying wage labor jobs at massive levels. Obviously, every individual hearing this can do things to improve their life. But on the whole, a lot of people, our economy demands a lot of people being stuck at jobs that have no future, that are underemploying them, and that are low paying, and that there's no way for these people to, for most people, or literally probably the majority of people, to improve their financial situation or their life in general, because they're stuck at jobs that are like a matrix, kind of pulling them in and making it very hard for them to leave. And they're dependent on a wage. We're dependent on a wage, and the wages, there's not enough good jobs to go around. And it's increasingly problematic. So I don't feel like that point was ever made. You know, I don't even know if the masculinity point about the role of a provider was necessarily made, but like, what was made at one point, Louis Theroux analogizes the matrix to the matrix of algorithms. That's at the end. It's like the big finish, I think. He's like, well, I guess the real matrix was the algorithms that's pushing these guys. But it's like, that's true, but that seems like not going far enough. I don't, like, my point about wage labor, like, you don't have to be like crazy left wing to be like, that's obviously the matrix. Like, they're literally saying in the film, like, the matrix is what keeps you stuck at your 9 to 5. So like, why is it even a jump to be like, oh, we're talking about how our economy makes people dependent on wage labor, and then there's not enough good jobs to go around? Like, is that not a very obvious point that should be made? I was like, how did they not make that point? Oh, the matrix is the algorithms. Okay, well then go maybe more into that. I don't know. They didn't really go into like what generates the algorithms. How do these for-profit companies, what do we want to say about these for-profit companies like Netflix, by the way, and how they're operating in the sense of prioritizing money over everything else. And I'm not saying we should ask companies to be nicer. Obviously, the point would be like, what is it in our world that's making so many people, first of all, seeking this content, and then, you don't need to like tell companies, hey, you can't, like there doesn't need to be laws around, well, actually, I guess laws around algorithms are probably really complicated. I'm not going to pretend to know about like that. Obviously, there could be algorithms that break laws in how they function. I'm sure there have been legal cases about that, but I don't think it's necessarily important to legislate algorithms. It's sort of like bringing up a problem that's really hard and mysterious for us to do anything about. Versus like wage labor, you could sort of push, hey, like, do you know about unions? Do you know about ways to make yourself more secure at your job by unionizing with other people? Is there more of a need for us to structure our societies in ways that don't make profit a central aspect of every single industry, in ways that then lead to people being exploited significantly by their jobs, which pay them only for a portion of the work that they do, and an increasingly small portion. And then they have to pay for housing and food that keeps going up in price. And ground rent keeps going up in price. Like, I just feel like some of these points would have really helped. Okay, and then, I'm not really sure why. Like, so this guy, whatever that he's interviewing right now, is kind of the central guy he interviews, and is being sort of like in between all their interviews, is being told by all his like little boy viewers about things about Louis Theroux, and so he's scared of Louis Theroux and stuff. And then he tries to like shock Louis Theroux or whatever. He keeps bringing up an interaction Louis had with I forget the guy's name. But and I didn't look into it, but I think there's some argument to be made that Louis Theroux like did a bad job in one of his past interviews. I honestly don't know the details. Let's just assume that he did a bad job with whatever the guy is that this guy keeps bringing up. I just want to say, at one point, this guy that he's interviewing brings up Israel because he accuses Louis Theroux of being, they're all anti-Semitic. So they say all these negative things about Jews, and then they bring up Israel because anti-Semitic people love to associate Israel with Jews. It's something anti-Semitic people and Zionists have in common. One of the many things that they have in common. So they associate Jews and Israel. To them, they're like the same thing. They're really stupid. So they're like, well, Israel says they're a Jewish state, so I think they're a Jewish state. Because that's how countries work. They get to just say what they are, and then we all have to agree with them. And that's true of every state that says they're an Islamic state. They truly are. They truly represent Muslims. Just like Israel truly represents Jews. I'm a baby, That's sort of what I hear when people talk about this. But they have a lot of young boy fans, and young boy fans, especially if they don't know any Jews, which a lot of people don't know any Jews, they're like, oh, this is badass, I'm bullying someone. I'm not being bullied. I'm bullying someone. That's kind of chill. You know what I mean? That's kind of dope, And it's like, okay. As a Jewish person, I'm just like, okay. That doesn't lead to real confidence, so it's just it's pathetic. I don't, the anti-Semitism that I see is very pathetic. I don't know how these people don't realize they're actually supporting Israel when they express anti-Semitism. That feeds Israel. You're feeding the Israel machine. And if you actually cared about anti-Zionism, you would be able to separate it from anti-Semitism. It's not that difficult. Jews have existed for thousands of years. Zionism has existed for 150, I guess. So it's very easy to separate, but a lot of people, they're just a little bit not incentivized to do it. But so these guys say a lot of anti-Semitic stuff, but and then this guy brings up Israel. He's saying, Louis, you're controlled by the Jews, and that's why you don't criticize Israel. And then he asks Louis, is Israel committing a genocide in Gaza? And Louis just doesn't answer and goes, well, you want my opinion? Yeah, dude. What is wrong with you, Louis? Like, you can't just say yes? Or you can't just say, yes, international organizations that are extremely credible say that Israel's committing a genocide in Gaza. Like, why can't you say that? Is that not a key part of winning these interactions and getting these men into a tight spot? Why can't you use that leverage? Does Netflix not allow it? Why can't you say, yes, they're committing a genocide? What the hell, man? It's really disappointing for a lot of reasons. Like, it's your job to be truthful, and you drop the ball. You can't say that they're committing a genocide? Dude, it's pretty well documented, man. It's extremely, like you can credibly say that they're committing a genocide. You're not the first person to say that. You're not the first millionth person to say that who's credible. Like, it's international organizations actually have declared it a genocide. Why would you not say that when you're talking to an anti-Semite? Do you not understand? Well, Louis Theroux is not Jewish, by the way. And I have a sense like I don't know if he supports Israel, but I have a sense he might not fully understand anti-Zionist positions, because it's pretty obvious when an anti-Semite says to you, Israel's, well, why won't you condemn Israel? You condemn Israel. You say, I don't support what Israel's doing. They should not be a Jewish ethno-state. You know, most Jews who say they support Israel have been propagandized, and most people are changing their opinion fairly quickly as they become more informed, and it should obviously not be a Jewish ethno-state. No country should be an ethno-state. Jews don't need that. We should tackle anti-Semitism in other ways. We don't need Jews to all go to their own country. We don't need any country to be structured in that way. It does not lead to Jews' safety. It's not helpful for Jews, and it leads to the murder and displacement of millions of people. So it's really not that complicated to just say, yes, Israel's committing a genocide. It's been ruled as a genocide, and it will continue being ruled as a genocide. There's an open case about it. Like, I don't know. It's like, it's very clear. You can just say that. So Louis just loses his credibility. It is also very funny. Right. I'm glad I wrote this point down so I didn't forget to say it. It is very funny, though, to hear this guy, the buff guy, acting like he cares that Israel's committing a genocide. Because, why do you care about that? You care about people's rights. You care about human rights. Like the same guy that's been in this interview for over several different interviews, clearly saying like he doesn't care if what he does affects the world positively. At one point, Louis Theroux says, why don't you just try to have a positive impact on the world? And this guy goes, that's a good question. No, it's not. I love when people say that's a good question and it's not. It's like, no, he just asked you, why don't you consider doing good actions? Like, that's not a good question, dude. You should have thought of that one. So it's like he literally says, well, it's money. I want to succeed. You know, I promote OnlyFans models and then denigrate them to my viewership. I talk about how women don't deserve the same amount of rights. And then I talk about how much I love my mom. You know, I try to, get people to be, to be essentially abusive, towards, minorities and women. And Jews and so on. But I really don't like genocide because that infringes on people's rights. And I really care about people's rights. It's like, okay, you care about people's rights. We just watched you assault someone in the street because you thought they were a predator, a child predator. Like that, you do not understand that you can't just do that. That's vigilante violation of people's rights. Like we watched this guy assault someone in the street with his friends. And then, but he cares about Israel's genocide. It's just a hilarious idea that, well, this is the thing with anti-Semites. Like, it's obviously they can't actually criticize Israel. Because to be anti-Semitic that's tied in with denying people's rights. And believing that people are worse based on their identity. which is inherently connected to denying them rights. So how could you possibly care about Israel denying people's rights? It's hilarious. And maybe Louis could have pointed that out if he was not afraid to engage. So I blame Netflix, but also Louis Theroux. I mean, what the hell, man? And then last point about this documentary, this is very interesting. So there's one guy they visit, and this is art he has. And I was just like, okay. Okay. I'm an art guy. This is the guy that they're taught. This is the guy. He's like a big Trump Andrew Tate guy. And very, very bizarre character. You can really see, I mean, the documentary does a good job of showing you like these men and like what's really going on for them mentally and attachment wise. It's very clear that there's like serious attachment issues that are unresolved. I just thought this was a very interesting art piece. And let's get a zoomed in, now, this is an art piece that this man, Justin, has in his house. We're now in his house, and the camera person just kind of is like, what the heck? So, like, now I have no idea what I'm supposed to see in this image besides what I obviously see. You know, I don't know what Justin thinks this image is. I know what the artist thinks it is. I mean, I don't even... This is not something you could do. As a visual artist, you would have to be blind to not be intending on this looking like he is engaging with a penis in a sexual way, which is beautiful. That's a beautiful thing, and that's a beautiful thing to do. It's something a lot of people get a lot of pleasure out of, both giving and receiving, and I'm all for it. I'm very sex positive. It's just a little surprising that this guy, and I wonder, like, what does his wife think? But you know, it's fine. Maybe they have an open situation, or maybe there's other stuff going on that I'm not aware of, and that's perfectly chill. I just thought it was kind of anachronistic, I guess, maybe. But it's kind of cool. It shows how, like, yeah, there's a lot of different ways that, you know. I don't know what to tell you here. Like, I'm really confused about what Justin thinks is going on in this image. But this is not the image segment, but I just had to kind of... Like, there's no way. Like, the background, you would need... Like, why? What is this? Like, obviously there is dots in the background. And look, you can tell the black paint is like added, you know, they painted it over, right? You can kind of tell like the black paint, the background is painted around the foreground, it seems like. So like, why wouldn't you just continue the background here unless you wanted to represent something here? I mean, it would be very like logical and obvious given everything about this composition and these circles in the background. You would expect this to just be a circle, but it's not. It has an extension here. And come on, yo, that is like 100%. It's kind of a beautiful piece. Don't get me wrong. Like it's a beautiful piece, and it's kind of interesting to show this man performing oral sex on a penis. I honestly think that's a very interesting artistic choice, and I think it says a lot about his artistic sensibilities that he's open to having that in his house. You know, I don't know if it's appropriate for the kids to see, but I don't remember their exact ages. I wouldn't want to, you know, see my dad doing that, but it seems a little, maybe this is a private room, you know, maybe it's a private room. So okay, that's Inside the Manosphere, and I'd recommend it. I wouldn't pay for Netflix to watch it, but yeah, it did just kind of end though, really, I felt like abruptly. I was like, oh, okay, that's the end. All right, well, I hate when things end abruptly, you know? It's like, it just makes me think, like, you know, I just did that as a joke for the clip. I'm going to clip that, and then I'm going to end that clip abruptly. So for you watching the podcast, it won't really make sense. But that will end abruptly as a clip. So that was me planning out the joke. Okay, so next up, let's go into the Goodish News segment. This is where I fly through Goodish News headlines of the day. I genuinely think it's really important to highlight Goodish News, and I genuinely am proud of myself that I feel like I make good use of looking at the news so much by being able to have this place where I highlight only Goodish News. It's obviously ish because, a lot of it is reflective of negative circumstances, but there is Goodish News, and it's important to highlight, not just to be like, ooh, yay, Goodish. Like, I believe that the arc of history bends towards justice. I genuinely do, because I believe that truth comes out always. And I we're struggling, we're animals, we're trying to make civilization a thing, but like, I believe it's always possible to make improvements, and we need to be aware of how that arc might be progressing in positive ways to be able to push that momentum forward. So let's just fly through it, though. Okay. Thousands of workers strike at one of the largest meatpacking plants in the U.S. Apparently, this is the first strike of... I thought there was we're only going to do the headlines. Yeah. 4 decades. The first strike of beef slaughterhouse workers in 4 decades, following accusations of unfair labor practices. Okay. Feds move to dismiss charges against Army veteran who burned American flag near White House. So if you're a fan of free speech, this is good. U.S. judge upends Kennedy's overhaul of childhood vaccine policies. This was big news for people who actually think that science is real. Our government wants us all to be sheep who do not understand science. But U.S. judge upends this complete loser, idiot, complete malicious liar, his overhaul of childhood vaccine policies, saying, hey, actually, parents, please stop abusing your children by neglecting medical care. Spain's king makes rare acknowledgement of country's colonial abuses. New York Academy of Art gives away money donated by a late convicted pedophile and indicted human trafficker Jeffrey Epstein, close friend of the current president. ICE goons released Colombia protester who was held for 1 year. La Cordia was held for 1 year for protesting at Colombia. She was held for 1 year in confinement. Her freedoms were taken away for protesting. So centrists and Republicans, thanks for voting for this free speech administration. You really got hoodwinked, you idiots. Oh, this is good news. Timothée Chalamet and the whole Marty Supreme won 0 of its 9 nominations. I was a big Marty Supreme hater. You can see my clip about that. I thought it was a pretty bad film. I think it's, it was entertaining. I don't blame you if you liked it. It was entertaining, I guess, but it was bad in my opinion. It was pretty critically bad film, and I think it deserved no awards. I mean, so. Okay. Trump administration cannot implement sweeping funding freeze, U.S. court rules. Rapper Afroman wins lawsuit against police over mocking their 2022 raid in viral music videos. And then I was watching a bunch of these yesterday, and his new music videos, and they're so good, so catchy. But yeah, he's such a talented artist, and he just went to court. He said, he didn't choose to go to court. The police sued him for releasing footage of them wrongfully raiding his house and then making a song with that footage. Lemon pound cake, put down his cock, lemon pound cake, trending on TikTok. It's so good. Okay. Jewish progressive prevails in closely watched Illinois primary, blasting AIPAC in victory speech. Yeah, that's the arc that we're on. Arizona hits Kalshi with criminal charges, escalating fight between states and prediction markets, saying, please stop getting our people addicted to your horrible thing here. Judge strikes down Arkansas law mandating schools display the 10 Commandments. Fucking Republicans, dude. Nashville reporter arrested by U.S. ICE has been released. So if you like reporters not being held in confinement for doing reporting, you might be a fan of this. Judge rules U.S. government overreached with transgender healthcare declaration. Yeah, because these goons want to take away the rights of minority groups. Because that's what they want. They just want the most powerful people to have the most rights. Pentagon's limits on press access ruled unconstitutional by U.S. judge. So this has been going on for months. It's actually quite important for the press to have access. And last week we looked at an article where in some state, like Washington or something, there was a ruling that certain conservative like influencers were not allowed to have access to certain like aspects of the government in that state. And I was supportive of that. The difference was, in that case, the judge ruled these influencers are not legitimate journalists because they are hyper-partisan, pushing their specific agenda and speaking at like Republican rallies. So they don't fit the definition of journalist. In this case, we're talking about people who literally are doing journalism. The different things are different. This is part of understanding the nuance of reality. World's most hoarding wealth individual, the double Hitler saluting man, Elon Musk, found liable to Twitter shareholders in fraud lawsuit over $44 billion takeover. Republican Trump administration waves the white flag in some ICE cases. The Justice Department is increasingly telling judges it can't defend ICE's actions. So if you're in ICE, get ready for that future. You just may be held accountable because the Justice Department can't defend you because you're not doing justice. Federal judge grants injunction allowing clergy visits at Minneapolis ICE holding facilities. So if you're a fan of freedom of religion, you might like this. Senate blocks amendment on transgender athletes during weekend session on voting bill. So they're having to work on the weekend and they're not able to immediately take away all rights from trans people. Whoa, that must be hard for Republicans and centrist apologist losers to accept. And lastly, on the Goodish news segment, Zurich's Museum Rietberg transfers 11 Benin bronzes to Nigerian government. I went to Zurich a year ago. I talked about it on the podcast a little bit. I went to a few European countries, went on tour. And I didn't go to this museum, I don't believe. But I went to their big museum, the Kunsthaus, and it was amazing. But yeah, I think it's good to give things that were stolen back. That's part of making amends for doing wrongful actions. So great. That's the Goodish news segment. That's what we like to do. We like to highlight Goodish news and just kind of keep it real, And that's what that was. All right. So now we go into the next thing, right? That's sort of how podcasts work. And the next thing is the research segment. A lot of podcasts don't look at enough research. Okay? I'll say it. We were all thinking it. A lot of podcasts, they don't look at any peer-reviewed articles. And it's like, why am I listening to this? Why am I watching this? I only want peer-reviewed articles. You know what I mean? Is what we're all thinking. At the very least, mention a peer-reviewed article if you're not going to show it. Sorry, I'm getting kind of worked up. It's really personal. This is very personal. Look, my best friend was a peer-reviewed article. So it kind of hits close to home for me. They're still alive. We just stopped being friends because they said they didn't like my sources. I don't really understand this analogy. Okay, point is, here's 2 peer-reviewed articles that we're going to look at. First up, Attention Hijacked, How Social Media Notifications Disrupt Cognitive Processing. This is an article from the future. I love that. And let's just look at the abstract. Digital notifications are ubiquitous in modern life, yet their impact on cognitive performance remains poorly understood. Here we introduce an ecologically valid paradigm. That means a paradigm that applies to like real life. To examine how social media notifications disrupt ongoing task performance, participants completed a task while receiving smartphone-style notifications, allowing us to track both behavioral and physiological responses. Notifications triggered a transient slowdown in cognitive processing lasting approximately 7 seconds. Driven by the combined influence of perceptual salience, like how important the perception was, learned associations, and relevance appraisal. The magnitude of this disruption was predicted by the inferred relevance of notifications and by individual patterns of smartphone use, specifically the frequency of interaction, notification volume, and checking behavior rather than total time spent on the device. These findings were mirrored in changes in pupil dilation, a physiological marker of arousal, confirming the convergent impact of notification relevance and smartphone habits. Together, our results show that modern digital cues can hijack attentional resources even in the absence of explicit personal relevance. They underscore the need to account for notification frequency, not merely screen time, when evaluating the cognitive cost of pervasive digital environments, and raise broader concerns about the long-term impact of habitual device interaction on attentional functioning. That's fascinating, and I'd very much recommend reading more about this and to learn more of like what's the healthiest way for your notifications to be set, frankly. I mean, really, like, sometimes in therapy, we're focusing on very like deep stuff. Other times we're focusing on really superficial, granular stuff. What type of notifications do you have turned on? What type of reminders do you have turned on? It's not always about having more. Sometimes it's about having less or more specific ones. Okay, next up on the research segment, the efficacy and safety of cannabinoids for the treatment of mental disorders and substance use disorders, a systematic review and meta-analysis. This is also from the future. So I think it's important to cut through the hearsay on all sides regarding cannabis and to study it like anything else and to see what's good about it, what's bad about it. So yeah, let's just kind of get through this. Mental disorders and substance use disorders are among the leading reasons for which the medical use of cannabinoids has been improved, but their efficacy and safety in treating these conditions is yet to be established. We conducted a systematic review and meta-analysis of randomized controlled trials testing the efficacy and safety of cannabinoids as the primary treatment for mental disorders or substance use disorders. So they found a bunch of articles. Let's see. Primary outcomes were remission of disorder or reduction of disorder symptoms. Safety was assessed. Blah, blah, blah. So they're just explaining how they did it. They found 54 trials, 54 studies identified for inclusion, including about 2,500 participants, 70% males, median age 33 years, ethnicity data not available, 44% of these trials had a high risk of bias. Wow, 44% of the trials had a high risk of bias, and the certainty of evidence for most outcomes was low. Our meta-analysis revealed that a combination of cannabidiol and delta-9 tetrahydrocannabinol. So a combination of cannabidiol and delta-9 tetrahydrocannabinol reduced cannabis withdrawal symptoms and weekly grams of cannabis use among those with cannabis use disorder, and a reduction in tic severity among those with tic or Tourette syndrome. So they're finding those are some positives of cannabis-based substances, I guess, that are used to treat cannabis withdrawal and something like Tourette's, apparently. Talk to your doctor. I don't know. Reduction in tic severity among those with tic or Tourette syndrome compared to placebo. Any cannabinoid type led to an increase in sleep time as recorded by an electronic device and sleep diary among those with insomnia. There was a reduction in autistic traits. I didn't know that. Among those with autism spectrum disorder. Wow. I didn't know that. That's interesting. Cannabinoids led to an increase in cocaine craving among those with cocaine use disorder compared with placebo. There were no significant effects on outcomes associated with anxiety, anorexia nervosa, psychotic disorders, post-traumatic stress disorder, and opioid use disorder. Yeah, that's not surprising that it's not helpful with those things. There were insufficient data to meta-analyze studies of... I mean, I've heard of people talking about weed with PTSD, but it's not surprising that it's not actually found to be useful. I don't see why it would. I don't see why it would be useful. I mean, that's interesting to think. So why is it useful why is it somewhat useful for tic disorder, but not for something like the hypervigilance of PTSD? Maybe it just has to do with the physical mechanisms of our body and the different pathways for these different things that are different. Insufficient data to meta-analyze studies of ADHD, bipolar disorder, or OCD, and tobacco use disorder. There was an absence of randomized controlled trial evidence for the treatment of depression. Meta-analysis revealed higher odds of all-cause adverse events among those using cannabis versus control group. Wow, interesting. But no higher odds of serious adverse events or study withdrawal. Okay. Interpretation. There was some evidence that cannabinoids can reduce symptoms of cannabis use disorder, insomnia, tic or Tourette syndrome, or an autism spectrum disorder, but the quality of this evidence was generally low. Cannabinoids were associated with a greater risk of any adverse events, but not of serious adverse events. Overall, there is a crucial need for more high-quality research given the scarcity of evidence. The routine use of cannabinoids for the treatment of mental disorders and substance use disorders is currently rarely justified. Yeah, that makes sense. You can do it because you like it, but don't tell yourself that you're treating a mental health issue in most cases. Okay, so now we move on to the one and the only meditation segment. Talk about things that actually can help you with your mental disorders. I believe meditation can. Maybe we'll look into that in the future. So meditation is when you basically just do nothing and you just chill, So let's do that. And if you're like, how do I meditate? Just just chill. Take some breaths. Don't try to force yourself to be chill. Just let yourself be chill, You focus on the breath not just to get oxygen, but because it centers yourself and gives your mind something to pay attention to that's very low stimulation and very continuous. Not enough podcasts do meditation. People don't realize that's a big reason people listen to podcasts is for silence. Give the people what they want, I say. Try to relax the muscles in your face and the rest of your body as much as possible. Each time you take a breath, you can just kind of try to notice where you're tense and try to breathe out the tension, so to speak. It's funny that this podcast is sort of like my church. Like I go every Sunday at like the time people often go to church. But I guess I'm the congregation and I'm the preacher or the whatever, the head guy at the church. And I'm also the janitor. And I'm also the guy who painted the windows. So it's, the stained glass window. You don't paint window, it's stained glass. I'm sorry, I shouldn't be trying to be so talkative during the meditation segment. That's a pretty good analogy, though. All right, so we're going to move on. I'm sorry that the meditation segment's not longer. I know a lot of people are often like, come on, could you just make it a little bit longer, please? And I'm like, yeah, I will. Okay, so now we move into the image segment. So let's look at some images. The first one is very serious, and I wanted to show these images of the damage from the war on Iran that United States and Israel are conducting illegally and wrongfully. So these are images from Iran. Fires burning on ships after a U.S. Bombs dropped on a port. So, how do we see that? Okay. How do we see the others? Do I have to scroll down? Okay. How did it change? Damage after, oh, this is damage, crumbled buildings. Why can't I see other images? Airstrikes on a military base, damage after airstrikes targeting. So these are just images, obviously, from the satellites. So there's a lot of different images you could see. This is damage after Iranian attacks on the U.S. Navy. So this is going in the other direction. So that looks to be damage. This is in Bahrain. It's crazy that the U.S. thinks it's okay to just have military bases in all these other countries. Seems completely wrong. Damage after Iranian attacks. This is a base in the Emirates, so damage in other places as well. This is not the most helpful images to look at. Oh, satellite images. Fire days after an Iranian attack on Oman. These are just the cascading consequences of this. I mean, if I'm Iran, I don't know what else to do if I'm getting bombed by United States and Israel. Like, do you just give in to their demands? You know what I mean? Or do you try to put pressure on them to end this war by attacking, places where they are? I don't know. I mean, it seems like there's a basic hypocrisy in the might is right mentality. Sort of what I got to earlier, that where, like, if the power imbalance was switched, you'd see different reactions from people. Like, it just, yeah, I mean, it seems like the United States, like, didn't we invade Cuba because, like, we didn't want the USSR to have, like, a base there? I mean, how many times, like, it's just to be able to say, oh, we're allowed to have our tendrils everywhere, but no one else is allowed to threaten us in any way, is not sustainable. It's not internally consistent. Okay, let's go on to something else. Image segment. King Charles photo with Caribbean officials under portrait of slavery-enriched monarch sparks criticism. People say, that's a little on the nose, Charles. It's a little on the nose. So they got a slavery profiteer monarch. And then there's also a painting. You know what I'm saying? Okay. Lastly, on the image segment, a Czech man used a stone in his barn's foundations. What is this? The museum in Philadelphia called the Barnes Foundation? It turned out to be a rare Bronze Age spearhead mold. Whoa. Are we allowed to show this? Wow. Everything reminds me of her, I'm sorry. That's inappropriate. This is very cool. The late Bronze Age spearhead mold was found in 2007 in a garden in the Czech Republic. Could you imagine finding that? From the late Bronze Age? That is beautiful. Wow. Both of them are beautiful. Both sides of it is beautiful. I don't prefer one side to the other. They're both beautiful. Okay. So that's the image segment. That's sort of what we do. What we do. Now we got the best part. This is the audio-visual segment. We've been struggling with it. We've had a crisis of faith with it, but we are back with a jam-packed audio-visual segment. No lag, no funny business, just audio-visual aspects of the world. So let's get into it. The first thing I mentioned earlier on this podcast, I don't usually... Trigger warning. Okay, seriously. I don't usually show stuff like this. And I don't usually watch stuff like this. We're literally going to watch footage of missiles hitting the earth right around the camera people. It's disturbing. And I genuinely don't think you need to watch this. I don't think this is important for you to watch necessarily. So feel free to skip ahead, 5 minutes or something, 3 minutes. I just thought it was kind of like, I do think there's some value to this. To just understanding this is reality. As I talk about with the podcast, we're here to explore reality, and this is part of reality. Now, that I could use that justification to show a lot of different stuff, but I also think this is important for people to understand on some level. I don't think it's that important. You don't need to watch this. It's pretty disturbing, but this is the reality. Now, these are actually, it's more interesting to me even because these are missiles hitting Israel. So this is an article from just last night. Heavy warhead missiles slam into Dimona and Arad after interceptors failure. I find it kind of psychologically fascinating the way that Israelis are brainwashed and propagandized to believe that they are never going to face consequences of their country's wrongful and illegal actions. And so it's part of the propaganda that supports the totalitarian state of Israel and the ethno-state of Israel is people believing that they're not accountable for the actions of their own state. But they are. And part of that accountability is dealing with the consequences of other countries like Iran retaliating for illegal and wrongful actions against them. Okay, trigger warning. Seriously, we're literally going to be watching a minute and a half of, I believe these are different angles of the same missile hitting in Dimona based on the label of the video, but I'm not positive, and it's possible these are showing different missiles hitting in Israel or even other videos in general. At one point later in the video, people are speaking Arabic, which I assume they're Arab Israelis because the video seems to be labeled as direct hit in Dimona, but I could be wrong, and I'm not actually positive, and I don't know how to check. But get ready, because it's about to come hard and fast. So someone is right now, you can see, filming the sky. They're because they're thinking, Israelis are thinking, well, this happens all the time, but our Iron Dome is going to protect us because we're impenetrable. We can't be hurt. We're special and different. We're the chosen people. We deserve an ethno-state, And when I say chosen people, I'm not mocking Jews like myself. I'm mocking the idea of believing that we're the chosen people. It's fucking insane. There's no chosen people. So This is very psychologically interesting to me. It's not just about missiles hitting the earth. It's about people who think they can never be hit by missiles, and their country can only hit other countries with missiles, and now they're being hit with missiles. So check this out. You'll hear the surprise.
Whoa.
That's the craziest one that we're going to see. There's a bunch of crazy ones, but this one, because you hear the person and you can tell that they think it's not going to break through, but then they're like, wait, it shouldn't get this bright, or it shouldn't be coming this close, and then it breaks through.
Whoa. Abba, this hit the first part. Wow. That is crazy. Wow.
These people are laughing. It's part of their life, is they're like, oh, well, we're just getting attacked for our country's actions, and but we'll be okay. And then these people are the folks speaking Arabic. So I don't know what they're saying. I would be very interested in understanding what they're saying. I know what Allahu Akbar means, obviously, but I don't know what they're saying and what they're... If anyone wants to let me know what they're saying, I'd be very interested. Same goes for the people speaking Hebrew. Closing the screen door is such an interesting thing. There are probably I'm sure there are Arab Israelis who support what Israel does. I mean, just like there are, immigrants in the U.S. who support what ICE does. I also imagine that there are Arab Israelis who understand that their country is acting illegally and wrongfully, and who understand that this is an obvious consequence of their own country's wrongful actions. But I don't know who these people are. I do think it's interesting that they're closing the screen door, though. Like, I don't know what Allahu Akbar means in this context, because I know it can mean a lot of different things, and I don't want to assume one way or the other, but I would understand if they're saying Allahu Akbar in the sense of, oh, I'm praying, I hope I don't die from these missiles, or if they're saying it, I don't know, if they're saying it in the sense of, like, this is divine justice for this country I live in doing wrongful actions against so many people. I don't know, and I'm not assuming either way. I would understand either way.
بس ليه الخبط والله يا طه والله يا طه بس الخبط
There were like 100 people injured yesterday in Israel in these strikes, but I don't know if you saw that in the headline. Did they not even say in this article? I mean, okay. That's weird. Injured Israel. At least 180 wounded. 200, almost 200 people injured. So a lot of people were hurt by these things, these missiles. And that's bad. And that's why Israel should not attack other countries. Because this is an obvious consequence of it. It's the same reason it's bad to punch someone in the face. So that's part one of the audiovisual segment. And, we have some issues with like tonal consistency. We definitely do. Because that was very serious, and all of the other parts of the audiovisual segment are extremely unserious. So we have a real issue with tonal consistency. And so that's why I'm now talking a little bit to kind of break it up. Because there's no good way to, like, transition into the next part. I just did... Like, I almost didn't show that, but we don't normally look at stuff like that. That is reality. That's actually going on. I'm obviously not highlighting attacks against Israel because they're, like, worse. It's just, to me, like, in a way more psychologically interesting to see the country being attacked that thinks it's always impervious and impenetrable, and that propagandizes its people based on that premise. So, okay, in much lighter news. So this is a video about Breaking Bad characters based on screen time. So credit to the channel Stuff to Watch. I'll just assume everything they say here is true. Jane Margolis, 52 minutes of screen time. That's the least amount of screen time of any character. I guess there's probably like... I guess they're drawing the line at some character. Because, you could be like... The guy who walks into Saul's office and doesn't want to sign... doesn't want to sign in. Or whatever. I don't remember who that was, actually. But, okay, so number 21, Jane Margolis... 52 minutes. Skinny Pete, 55 minutes. Badger, 1 hour and 5 minutes. Stacey Ermintrout, 1 hour, 8 minutes. Tuco. This is not as interesting as I thought it would be, I guess. Is it? I don't know if it's interesting. I guess it's interesting that Steven is almost as present as Hector. You don't think of him as... It'd be funny if someone was like, Steven's my favorite character on Breaking Bad. He's only in it a little bit less than Lalo, but they talk about Lalo a lot, and he's always there in spirit. That really looks like an AI picture of Flynn. Howard Hamlin, wait, what? Oh, okay, so they're including Better Call Saul. Okay. So even for Stacy, yeah, okay, that makes sense if they're including Better Call Saul. But you're telling me Lalo is not in it more even? Okay, whatever. Well, Howard Hamlin, 4 minutes 55. How did they get this though? Right? Because this must have been using like machine learning. No one went through and counted. Right? How did you get this information? You don't want to cite it at all? There's a trap remix in the background. That's kind of sick. I want to hear that. Based on internet searches, online community discussions, and online articles. That sounds like they just used AI. But okay, we got to hear a second of the trap. It's the audio-visual segment. Oh, shit. Oh, shit. Yeah, I'm saving that one for later. No joke. Saving that one for later. Yeah, we'll save you for later for sure. Okay, so let's keep going. Okay. Oh, no. Okay, I gotta turn that down though. I don't know if they'll copyright it or something. So Kim, now we're getting into the real big. I wonder who's gonna be number. I can already. I should have waited. But okay, it's Saul. That makes sense because Walter's not in the other show much, and Saul's in both shows of quite a bit. 29 hours into. That's crazy. That's so cool to be Bob Odenkirk and be like, wow, I actually am in the universe shows even more than Walter White. Wow. So, Jimmy McGill, Saul Goodman, Gene Takovic, frankly. Okay. So next up on the audiovisual segment, staff struggle to restrain dancing robot. Let's check this out. So I don't know. Oh, this is in California? So this is in California. They're apparently having dancing robots at your restaurant. And like, why, right? Like, why? I don't know. Why would you want anyone to be dancing at your restaurant, let alone a robot? But okay, let's watch that again. Oh my god, that's so funny. And then the apron that just says I'm good. Yo, that shit looks big. I'm having like iRobot flashbacks. Like that thing is big. Like straight up. It's taking 3 people to hold it back. The robot's like, hold me back, hold me back. Okay, so something to be aware of, I guess. Next up on the audio-visual segment, a real possum appears among plush toy animals in Australian airport gift shop. Just want you to be aware of this. So, this is a metaphor. This is a metaphor. That's me for real. You know what I mean? I'm the real possum among a bunch of stuffed possums. That's like a metaphor for my life, essentially. It's like we're all of our lives. We're all the real possum among all the fake possums. That's sort of like what it's like to be us. You know what I mean? To be a human or to be anything. You're like alone in the world, but yet you're connected, but yet it's sometimes hard to be fully connected. It's sort of like a metaphor. You know what I mean? And we're on the shelf of life. You know what I mean? And then one of our friends is like falling over. Oh my god. I'm trying to watch the video. Stop advertising a separate video. Go away. I can't even click it away. Okay. So what's going on here? You know? Oh, that's it. No, wait. I'm done. Okay. Well, that's it, I guess. Okay, well that's good. A few more audiovisual things. So this is a gentleman by the name of Tim Pool, and I find his rhetoric very interesting and funny. I love to watch like people critically analyze him. I just wanted to mention one thing I heard. I was watching someone analyze Tim Pool's silly little rhetoric, and there was just this one moment I was like, I gotta highlight that on the podcast. This is great. So he's talking about the war in Iran. And he's doing his classic thing where he like doesn't really take a strong position on anything. And then he's talking now about how this is like the war in Iran and the obvious way, that this administration hoodwinked people by pretending to be anti-war in a way that was very transparent, and you had to be pretty ignorant to fall for it, in my opinion. But this is leading to cracks in the MAGA base, and I talked about this I made a video called "Message to People Leaving MAGA." I do, obviously people, political movements don't last forever, and this one's clearly running its course. But I thought this segment, this little quote of Tim's, was pretty interesting. So check this out.
Apology for that egregious lie, Secretary.
I should say. He has Roseanne Barr on his podcast, along with like 4 other people or whatever. Roseanne Barr's son and 3 other people. So just don't worry about it for now.
Secretary of War Pete Hegseth is a gentleman and a scholar. I know a lot of people don't like him, but I have a tremendous respect for him.
So he's not joking. I should give context because it sounds like a joke when someone says that, but he's not joking. So that's not the part I wanted to show, but let's watch that.
For that egregious...
He's talking about former Fox News Weekend co-host and current warmonger Pete Hegseth, a man who his own mom said he is abusive towards women in an email to him. And he's been credibly accused of rape. And he's like never held down a serious job. And he's now currently leading our war crimes division of this United States. So, but yeah, that's who Tim's talking about right now, just to be clear.
Lie. Secretary of War Pete Hegseth is a gentleman and a scholar. I know a lot of people don't like him, but I have a tremendous respect for him, though I do have reservations about our involvement in Iran. I am not going to be hard extreme on one side or the other for the sake of attracting viewers.
This is also not why I'm showing it, but it's very funny to me that he says, I'm not going to take a strong opinion just to attract viewership. Tim, I think a lot of people think you don't take a strong opinion to attract viewership. A lot of people think that's why you actually take no strong opinion, is because you're afraid of losing viewership. Now, that has its own pitfalls, of course, but yeah. What he loses in AdSense revenue, he makes up for in shadow money.
Or otherwise, I'm going to tell you the truth. And the truth is this: the MAGA coalition is fractured. Now, does that mean that MAGA is broken or dead? No.
So I heard that, and I was like, well, I thought fractured did mean that. Let's hear that one more time.
I'm going to tell you the truth. And the truth is this: the MAGA coalition is fractured. Now, does that mean that MAGA is broken or dead? No.
Okay, so I Googled it, and I said fractured. Okay, the first thing to come up is broken. That's the first word. It comes up a lot when you look up, what does it mean to be fractured? A break. Having a crack or a break. Broken. Even as a metaphor for English, speaking fractured, broken English, like it's just everywhere. There's no way to find a definition of fractured. Like when you break a limb, it's fractured. Like that's the technical term. And like fractured as anything means broken. So I didn't break. Like there's no definition of the word fractured that does not involve breaking. Fractured metaphor, like even if we specifically look as a metaphor. Okay, and this is the AI, but you can go to anything. I mean, it's just dead metaphor. Oh, that's interesting. I never heard of that. Here we go. Fractured, not broken. Mixed metaphors. Wait, what? Fractured definition, broken definition. Oh, okay. Yeah, I mean, that's understandable. Yeah, like, obviously people could, yeah. There you go. I mean, you people could define it to be that. And, you know, if you're talking about yourself as being fractured, then yeah, you don't want to think of yourself as being broken. You know, it can be useful, but it's just interesting that often it does seem to mean that to most, like, more neutral, objective kind of definitions. So it could mean damaged or destroyed, but it could also mean broken. So anyways, having it fractured does mean it's broken, Tim.
It means that the group of people that refer to them as MAGA still do. The group of people that refer to themselves as Republicans still do, and they still support Donald Trump and what is going on. But we've got poll after poll showing that independents are breaking from Trump over this issue. With Tim
Are doing what from Trump? What are they doing from Trump? Okay, and lastly on the audiovisual segment, I don't know how much of this we're going to watch because it's an hour long. But this is BuzzFeed founder Jonah Peretti giving a presentation about all this cool new AI stuff he's doing at BuzzFeed. And I just think this presentation really goes to show how out of touch our tech oligarchs are, and it's kind of humorous. So check this out. It was at South by Southwest very recently.
Hello, everyone. Good to see you today. I don't. Do I have a clicker? A clicker would be good. Yeah. Oh, look, it's saying a clicker would be good. That's AI right there.
Okay, so a strong start. Strong start. Apparently there's some sort of AI readout that's repeating what he's saying, and he's pointing it out. Well, that sounds really useful. And I guess he needs a clicker for the presentation. So someone should have organized that. Maybe they made an AI note to organize it and it never got done.
We can just advance the next slide if there's a way to do that. No? I think they're more stressed than I am about this shift. So the media.
Who's more stressed than you are? You seem pretty stressed, but let's see.
The industry has a problem, and I wanted to talk a little bit about what that problem is, how it got here, and then talk a little bit about some of the steps that we can take to move forward. So let's go to the next slide. So the internet has made content distribution almost free. Now, making content distribution almost free sounds like a good thing, and in many ways is a good thing. Early BuzzFeed really took advantage of the free distribution of the internet, and we spread stuff all across the internet. But there is a challenge because media companies, if you go to the next slide, make money from distribution. I really need a clicker, though. I don't.
I just love it. Like, I love the idea of someone like doing this whole presentation, which is going to be essentially, it's literally about their AI, their new AI tools. And yet they can't even figure out how to give a clicker to the person doing the presentation. Sort of makes you, it sort of is like the classic like cart before the horse thing.
If I say, there we go. Okay, amazing. There's like 90 slides. So if I would set that 90 times. So the internet's made content distribution almost free. And media companies historically have made money from sorry, I'm like totally discombobulated here.
Yeah, maybe you should just stop.
All right, let me just start fresh. So what happens when it's easy to and super easy to distribute and make content?
A lot of people do it.
Is there something that's like off?
This is the presentation you deserve when you're unveiling your new AI tools at your company that pumps out slop all day.
Sorry, everyone, bear with me here.
No, don't apologize, man. This is more entertaining than your presentation.
So historically, media companies have made money from content distribution, and that meant things like satellite dishes,
What? What?
printing presses, buying a bunch of trucks to drive your newspapers around. It meant owning movie theaters. It was really hard to distribute content. It was really hard to distribute media. But because it was hard, it meant that media companies could make money from it.
Okay, I mean, I could put the pieces together to make sense of what he's saying, but it's not well said. Because it was hard, because there's a burden of putting it together, you could make money from it because other people are not doing it. Sure, I guess. I don't know. It's not the most helpful framing.
If you tried to compete with a newspaper, but you didn't have printing presses, you didn't have trucks, you couldn't do it. And so that was a big source of friction, but also a big source of revenue for media companies.
He's just framing it in such an odd way. The source of revenue is not the overhead, but the overhead is a reason why other people are crowded out of the market, and then that can help with the revenue, sure, in an indirect way.
And when the internet started to make content distribution free, it made it harder for media companies to charge for distribution.
Sure.
And so media companies could distribute
That's the previous thing he just said.
media and get paid for distribution, but when that started to break down, they had to turn to other things.
Wow, why don't people want to pay this guy and his company to do things? I wonder.
And so distribution has moved to streaming, it's moved to mobile, and it has really made the distribution of media
742 views on a channel with 368,000 subscribers and an extremely famous guy presenting.
much more challenging way to make money. And so after that, so the slides are kind of in a weird order, so I'm kind of disassociating.
No way. No way. Did you have AI make it, the presentation?
They're like, none of the slides are in the right order.
No way. That doesn't even seem true. Like, they do seem generally in the order of what he's talking about.
I might just kind of do a more improvisational talk. So
This is what happens when you rely on AI. You become incompetent to a certain extent.
So the right now, like most, thank you.
That hurts. That hurts when the crowd does like an emotional support clap for you. That's like you've really done a bad job. Hold on, let's see if I can just check out the AI thing to explain it to you. Yeah, it's betting on so here's a New York Times article about it. Or let's see if I can pull this up really quick just to give a little bit more background information. It's a really long podcast episode. Definitely not doing improv today. But you could become a member for some of that. Okay, so or a channel patron or a member of the main channel, obviously. Okay, so here's a little bit of information. Betting on AI experiments. If a company fell on hard times because it doesn't provide anything of value to people. And so now they're creating a new thing that's going to use AI to build new apps, including games and communities inspired by Nintendo. Okay. So AI apps. Trying to generate more revenue by AI. Doesn't appear to have a long time to make it all work. It lost 10 million last year, almost 11 million last year. And yeah. Yeah, I don't know, man. Maybe it's just not a good company. So he's trying to appeal to investors. This is the last possibility, it sounds like, for him. I mean, you could just do something useful. Like, you could just try to contribute positively to the world.
Appreciate the support. It's actually it's a lot more fun this way.
It's a lot more fun when nothing's working.
So most distribution now, if you look at the like maybe 90%, 95% of the time people are spending consuming media, it's on things like streaming and mobile. And that's something that has completely sidestepped the entire apparatus of the media industry.
I feel like this, even aside from the mistakes, I feel like this is like a decade-old presentation. Like, what? Dude, it's 2026. Like, yeah, we're aware. Like, these facts seem really out of date.
And so that means that media companies maybe have to look in a different place. If you can't make money on distribution, maybe you can make money.
Is that an AI photo or what?
Money on production. And so the production of media is something that media companies have historically been very good at doing, and is another thing that is hard to do. Think about Marvel movies. You have IP, you have talent, you have huge production.
Okay, I don't know if this is where he's going, but it sounds like where he's going is things have become so easy for everyone to do. So instead of challenging that by doing high effort content, we're going to race to the bottom and do even lower effort content.
Budgets, and that has enabled.
Okay, this is rude and harsh and petty, but I don't like that his hair matches his shirt.
Like a Disney to make huge amounts of money by moving up market and making things that people in their bedroom can't create. So maybe you're a person who's just sitting in your basement. You can distribute content anywhere.
No, this is my podcast studio.
But unless you are a big studio, there's no way for you to make a Marvel movie or make something that's super expensive.
Yeah, that's a really good point, Jonah. We're 5 minutes in and you're still explaining the point that like overhead exists.
But what's happening now is that media companies, oh cool, here they are. So I think the confusing thing is that, well, whatever. I see different things here, but they're not here.
I mean, what are you supposed to do if you're in his position, right? Like, what do you do? How do you stop commenting on the continued tech issues?
Okay.
I can't even imagine being in that room, though. It's funny to watch like this. I would be cringing so hard being in that room because you can't laugh if he's right there. I mean, you can't laugh in a mean way like I'm doing now.
These are some examples of production being a skill of media companies.
Why? Like, we get it.
You know, matrix bullet cameras. This is from Game of Thrones. Like, if you look at the level of production value.
Oh, really? I thought they just made that in someone's basement. That's crazy.
Distribution might be free, but making this is hard, and media companies could make a lot of money from making things, from contracting big stars. And all of that.
The slides are clearly out of order. Why would this slide be the next one? And he's trying to make it work.
That became a lot of the focus of the media industry. As distribution became less and less lucrative, they started to focus on production. But now we see AI starting to erode and make it easier to produce content, including content that looks very professional.
So we're just going to join that, he's saying.
And I'm going to show an example of it. But what we're seeing is that creators and now AI are making content at a fraction of the cost while eroding AP rights.
IP.
I don't really know how to show the media. Someone could help with that. It's not.
Where's the South by Southwest staff?
I can hear them in the back talking.
A lot of AI is slop, but some is already Hollywood level. But doesn't that contradict what he was just saying? Like, does he genuinely think that what he's saying is not true of AI? Like, AI somehow is able to replicate, like, the large overhead? It's not. Like, because of everything you're just saying. Like, real is real, and stuff is different when it's made differently.
Maybe I'll act this out. So this is This is, have people seen the clips of this Chinese AI model that can make like Hollywood style movies?
Yeah, and it sucks. And only idiots would watch that shit.
What is it called? Like what is it called?
What is it called?
Dance, yeah, Sea Dance.
Bro, what?
So I'm gonna
I mean, I don't know what it's called, but like, why are you bringing something up you don't know what it's called?
Sea Dance movie because the video clip isn't showing, but Sea Dance is making these.
So I have not watched it. I had watched 30 seconds of this. I did not realize the issues went on 7 minutes into the presentation.
Clips where Tom Cruise and Brad Pitt are in the movie, where special effects are happening.
Is he like
planes
sweating
are
by the
crashing.
end?
These are the exact things that Hollywood studios have moved up market to make to avoid competition from the internet. And so if you can distribute little content and eat cheap, easy things on the internet, the super produced Hollywood film is something that the internet couldn't disrupt. And now you're seeing AI start to make those kinds of content.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, on some level, sure, but like, there's obviously a huge difference.
That kind of content. And you're also starting to see, oh, here we go.
Reporting what is being called a geomagnetic storm.
Okay, I don't care. I don't care about any of that. You lost me with the Hitler supporting car. Okay, so great. So that's so a lot of good things happening at BuzzFeed. You know, sometimes relying on AI makes you not take the normal sort of steps you need to take to live in a competent manner, like preparing your presentation and coordinating accurately and adequately with the staff of the event you're presenting at. Okay, well, you know, that's the audiovisual segment, though, for you. All right, so next up we have the audio-only segment. This is a new segment. You know, I don't know if it'll stick around. We'll kind of see how it goes. You know, we always do audio-visual. That's great, but I think it's important to do audio-only sometimes. Just got to show you what that's all about. So let's see. This is a researcher's, where's the headline? Oldest known whale recording could unlock mysteries of the ocean. So let's check out the recording. So wait, this has visuals too. Sorry, I thought it was audio only, but they added visuals. This is a recording from decades-old audio equipment that was found. It was recorded in 1949 in Bermuda, and it was the ocean in 1940s was much quieter than the ocean of today, providing a different backdrop for the whale song. Interesting. So let's check it out.
Side 1 of record 12. The date, 7th March, 1949.
The wonderful engineer who had provided this autograph to make recordings, they had no idea what those recordings were of. They were just curious about what it might be.
Oh.
And because that data was preserved, we now today, I could...
Okay, well, we don't talk about data on this podcast. That brings up a lot of feelings based on, if you're a long-time listener to the podcast, you know what I'm referring to. Let's just try to listen to the song here.
Water. They were hearing sounds they were not expecting. And they were...
Okay. I wouldn't mind a like sort of longer clip of the sounds.
Indication that they saw whales. They just knew that these were sounds. But later, scientists were able to make the connection directly.
That's fine.
Recordings were of.
I'll just keep playing it over. Okay. Well, I don't know. That was fine, I guess. That was a pretty bad segment. I'm sorry. I thought it would be different in various ways. I feel like Jonah Peretti up here. Could we not have gotten an audio-only thing? It had a video, and then it didn't even have long segments of the audio. I'm talking to my producer here. They're just looking at me like they don't care, which is surprising. That was supposed to be a special segment. No, I don't think people are going to be okay with it. Thanks for asking. Okay, so next up we have the follow-up segment where I follow up on the previous episode. This is episode 152 we're following up on, and currently we're doing episode 153. I don't know if I said that yet. We were talking about a lot of different things, disgusting aspects of our government and, other aspects of reality. So one thing I wanted to follow up on just quickly, what's this? Let's do a quick follow-up here.
Look at images. Often it's clips, which we can do too. Sometimes we have funny clips, sometimes we have informative clips. This is going to be more informative. Let's get into the audio visuals.
Okay, so that was incorrect. It was not informative for reasons similar to just the underwater video we just watched. I don't know anything about it. So just following up there, it was not informative. That was a mistake. Okay, one other follow-up really quickly. We sometimes talk about David Vladimir Rubin on the podcast. An interesting kind of grifter I like to analyze because he's very funny and obviously transparently disingenuous. But yeah, when I looked at his channel,
successful grifter.
I forgot to mention his banner. Okay, so this is his channel. His banner is a show for normal people. Now, you could say, oh my God, look, both thumbnails for his two most recent live streams, like the full live streams, the thumbnail text is the exact same. Dave, I've criticized your thumbnail text a lot because you repeat it, but like back-to-back videos, back-to-back live streams, like your main live stream, back-to-back live streams is the exact same text. You know? Like, that seems odd, you know? He loves when people go silent. It's really funny. So yeah, look, what? Now he's scared. She sounds scared. Now she's scared. Oh, I love when people of color are scared, I guess, is what Dave Rubin's saying. That's the commonality I'm seeing there. But he just likes people being scared. Now she's scared. Wow. Interesting. Now she's scared. Interesting. So, finally made her mad. Finally got Bill mad. It sounds like he just likes when people are upset. I wonder what his childhood was like. I would love to interview Dave Rubin about his personal life and childhood. Dave, that's an offer you can't refuse. And I could also give you some tips, like not repeating thumbnail text in 2 consecutive live streams. Holy God, they yassified the Marky Mark Rubio. What is going on with his makeup? Anyways, none of that was what I wanted to say. A show for normal people. That is really the most instructive thing about Dave Rubin. And I'm not going to say he's not normal, blah, blah, blah. That's irrelevant. Like the idea of centering your appeal as normality is very instructive and illuminating. To basically be saying, I am the norm, people who agree with me are the norm, and that's what we have in common, is that we're common sense people, we're normal, and other people are abnormal. So it's not that we're even like correct about things, we're just normal. We're a show for normal people, and that's a big part of our identity, is that we're normal. And Dave thinks it's normal to support the Zionist ethnic state of Israel committing genocide against Palestinians, and he literally supports the U.S. and Israel bombing Iran and Lebanon. Like, he supports murder. He supports ICE murdering people. He like, that's normal to him. And it doesn't matter, right or wrong don't matter. It's just about being normal and feeling normal. And if you're advertising yourself as being for normal people, it's actually hard for me to explain exactly what I'm trying to say, but you're basically saying that your appeal is that you satisfy people's feelings of discomfort at things that are confusing or different or unusual to them. I just think it's almost the most pathetic possible thing to pride yourself on, really. Being normal. I've always prided myself on accepting my individuality and developing my individuality, and I think it's part of what makes me a creative person and a successful creative person, is that I've spent many years like appreciating my individuality and following my impulses to be different and unique and my own person, because we're all unique. So to pride yourself on being normal is to reject your own individuality, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. So I just wanted to point that out because I hadn't mentioned his banner yet. Look at Banner. It's an Arrested Development quote. Okay. So before we get out of here, I'm going to check the mailbag. People write into verbaljournalpodcast@gmail.com. I have to save it for the end of the podcast. We get so many people writing in that it ends up taking over the whole episode. Okay, no one wrote in. Great. And we'll do improv next week for the members and the patrons. Join the channel, the What's Therapy channel, or become a patron at What's Therapy Patreon. And you can check out the private episodes. Next 2 episodes will be just for members and patrons, and I really appreciate people supporting my work. Let me name you right now, all you great supporters. I really appreciate the money. I'll start with the members on the YouTube channel of the What's Therapy channel. Thank you to the members Escape, Riri, The Carbon Creed, Somewhat Entertainment, Jasmine, Simply Snaps, Gerbo, Hollow Moon, and Pit Inhabitant. And I will also say a big hearty thank you to the Patreon patrons. Thank you, Emmanuel, Conroy, Owl Knight, Andreas, Not Dirty Harry, Bean Machine, Grape Juice, PC, Janie, JCS, M, Ben's Life, Brandon, Felix, Marcy Bun, Stepan, Cool Bean, Spaghetti Gal, Isabel, Milky Way, Ryan, Grace, Garrett, Simply Snaps, Caffeine, Parker, Dakota, Aiden, Noah, Burrow, Perpetually Jackson, A, Islack, MK, Matt, Noah, Anastasios, King, Tom, Hugh, Redgrove, Elemency, Platinum Sarge, Rabid Dog, Andrew, Ian, Russ, Irene, MJ, Ludwig, Ryan, Madeline, Brent, Molly, Ashley, Scott, Thulisaurus Rex, Miles, and User. Thank you all. I really appreciate the support. And thanks everyone for watching the new video too. I really appreciate it. I'm going to get out of your hair and I'll catch you later. So thanks for watching, and I hope you have a good life and keep doing the good things and being a good person. And, we'll bend that arc further and further towards justice. So that's kind of the work we got on the agenda, also to just enjoy life, because you probably only get one. So try to blend those 2 things together. Okay, good luck. Bye. This is a podcast or something like that.